now can't see the fight. Smoke and mirrors, they lead the way.
So, there's some things coming down the pipeline that I think a lot of people need to be thinking about. And it's about money. So let's talk about money for a second. I'm a money guy. Well, I'm starting to be a money guy. You know, the more you get into politics, the more that you see the prevalence of money and the exchange of money and how it's not for us. So let's talk about a few things. So the current global financial system was put into place after World War II, and that was in 1944, and that's called the Bretton Woods system. And what that done was it connected the world financially, all countries. So, and what we have now is global debt. And what I mean by that is currently the global debt is like $308 trillion. So if we add up all the debt out of all the countries of the world, it's like 308 trillion, okay? Well, the gross domestic product, which is what countries make and sell within a given year, currently that's roughly about 117 trillion. So we're already about a $200 trillion loss per year, right? So like this global debt is naturally going to just keep increasing over time. And that's pretty serious. 'Cause like, and then you got to ask yourself, like, who do we owe debt to and who owes debt to us? Because if like everybody owes debt, like who's coming out on top? And the answer is nobody. There is no one country that's just making a ton of money, you know. Everybody owes everybody. So it's like you're going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's going to borrow from, or Paul's going to borrow from you to pay Peter. So it's like this, you know, it's this never-ending cycle. But out of that 308 trillion debt that the world owes, roughly 37 of that is us. So the United States right now is roughly about 37 trillion. And what a lot of people don't realize is that 70% of that is American to American. So what we owe the banks or the car lenders or whatever, right? 70% of that 37 trillion is American owned debt. So like you, me, our neighbors, that's the debt, okay? And that's quite a bit. So there's a couple things that the government's trying to do. One, and look at it how you want. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? That's for you to decide. It's not for me to decide. I'm just here to kind of give you some information. So one is there are talks of upping car loans to 15 years. Yeah, so you could buy a car, have a loan on it for 15 years. So you're like, well, golly gee, that's kind of a lot. Well, think about the car market. Cars nowadays cost just as much, if not more, than a house cost 50 years ago, right? So like, in reality, should we be looking at the price of cars? Like, why is the price of cars so high? And then who in God's green earth would want to be paying on a car loan for 15 years? Like that's absurd. Like a 5-year loan or a 7-year loan is, you know, what most people pay now. So like double that. Just think about paying on your car for 15 years. That's insane. The car is basically worth nothing if you drive it daily, right? You're going to have so many miles on that car by the end of the 15 years that the car is going to be worthless. And guess what? You're going to have to buy another one. Yep. And you're going to be on another 15-year loan. So that's one issue if that goes through. The other issue is even bigger. We're talking about housing. Currently, housing is at like a 30-year loan, okay? Buy a house, get a 30-year loan. It's not bad. You can pay it off earlier. Most people can. Some people can't. But they want to up it to 50. 50-year loan for a house, okay? Has that been tried other places? Well, sure it has. Switzerland has a 50-year loan for a house. Japan has a 50-year loan for a house, okay? Is it working? I would say no. Okay, so take a look at Japan. Japan has what's called generational debt. Generational debt, meaning that you buy a home, they have a 100-year loan on that home. If you don't pay it off, it passes down to your kids. And if your kids don't pay it off, it's passed down to their kids. It's generational debt. So now instead of people building and making generational wealth, the powers that be, whoever they are, it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter, right? It's not the point here. The point is that Japan is in generational debt. And like, what does that mean? Well, it means that it's a new term for, you can call it whatever you want, but it's about slavery, right? You owe somebody something for your whole generation, and you're going to pass that debt on to your kids. And your kids are going to do the same thing, right? They get a loan for 100 years, they're going to pass it on to their kids. And it's generational debt. So, how do we fix this? That's the question that a lot of people should be asking. How do we fix this? And why would we want this stuff to pass, right? The other thing we have to look at is like places like Singapore and EU, they are issuing bonds that's built on the blockchain. And if you guys don't know what that is, the blockchain has to do with Bitcoin and crypto and Ethereum and stuff like that, stuff that's built on the blockchain. So then we're talking about digital currency, currency that, what happens if the web goes out and then the internet goes out and like, okay, well then you have no money. They can control that, right? So bonds, do you want your bonds put on the blockchain? That's just something you're going to have to vote on, right? As Americans, we're going to have to vote on that eventually. We're going to have to vote on a monetary system that comes up digitally. Most of our bank cards, our credit cards, are on the blockchain already. Most places are already starting to accept certain coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP and a bunch of others. Is this something that you're going to want, right? And then, does the government care if what you want, or are they just going to do what they want to anyways? Okay, you're taken into a fact that they stopped making pennies today. Today was the last penny that was made, right? Because it's too expensive. What happens when it's too expensive to make a nickel and a dime and a quarter and so on and so forth, right? They're going to systematically force you. Well, it's going to be your choice. You're going to vote for it, just like everything else that you've already voted for. Okay, they're going to systematically make this to where you have no currency. Okay, and everything is going to be generational. All of your debt that you own is going to be generational, and you're going to pass that on to your kids, and it's going to be this repetitive cycle. All right. So the whole point of this talk is to start thinking. Right? We've got to be smart with our money. We've got to start investing in ourselves. We've got to start investing in each other, because the powers that be, whoever they are, right? Doesn't matter if it's just the United States or if it's global, right? How are you going to invest in yourself? Bet on the stock market, right? A couple dollars. All right, get your kids in a Roth. Get them in there now. Put $5 in, $10 in. Teach them how to save, okay? Don't let them become part of this generational wealth or this generational debt. We want them to obtain generational wealth. So start them out young as you possibly can. You can open your own account through Fidelity. You can have your own Roth. You can set up a Roth for each one of your kids, and you could put $5 in every paycheck, okay? We're not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. We're not worried about what's going to happen 5 years from now. We're worried about what is going to happen for them 50 years from now. In 50 years, if you put just a few bucks out of every paycheck into a Roth IRA, they will have $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. Can they retire on that? That's a good possibility, right? Plus their retirement that they're going to have from where they work, or Social Security, or their IMRF, or whatever else that is, their 401k, right? So it's playing the long game, okay? And that creates generational wealth. And we get out of the idea of generational debt. So pay attention to those two things that's coming down the pipeline. 15-year car loans, 15, okay? And ask yourself, do you want to pay on a car for 15 years? And then 50-year mortgages for your house. Think about it. How old are you now? Go buy a house today, and in 50 years, how old will you be? Will you have that house paid off? Okay? Is that something that you're going to want to pass down to your kids? Right? That's a debt that they're going to have to pay, or they're going to have to sell your property. Okay? There's no money in that for them. It's generational debt. Okay? Let's stop and let's think. We don't want generational debt. All right, guys? Put questions in. I'll answer them as soon as I can. We'll see you guys later. Appreciate it. Peace.